Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Psilocybin Says. I'm Eric Osborne.
And I'm Courtney Rose, and this one is the episode with the Mushroom Dad.
What? It was such an honor. If you haven't seen the Mushroom Dad, check out the show notes. We'll have a link to the the Instagram video that went viral, over 25 million views. He accidentally ate some of his son's mushroom chocolates, and it is hilarious.
And if you've listened to this podcast at all, you know that we would never advise anyone to accidentally eat mushrooms that have psilocybin in them. But sometimes it happens, and thankfully, Stu, the Mushroom Dad, was somewhat of an experienced mushroom eater, so he knew how to ride the waves. And in addition to that, a professional clown,
which I think he just slid right in.
Don't worry if you didn't know a professional clown was still a thing, like outside of the circus. It is, and it's a wonderful thing. And I so enjoyed this conversation with Stu. He's like a wealth of knowledge and joy, and just it was really good vibes conversation. So I really hope that you all enjoy this one. And if you do, give it a thumbs up. That really helps us a whole lot, helps people find our videos, and subscribe to our channel if you're not already subscribed.
That's it. Let's get on to this episode because it is a good one.
Yeah, enjoy.
All right, Stu, welcome to Psilocybin Says.
Thank you.
Hey, Stu. So good to have you here.
Yay, I made it.
Yay.
That's showing up is a victory as far as I'm concerned.
Yes. But I'm sure you have showed up in some much more challenging, interesting places than just this podcast.
Oh, yes. I have. From the mountaintops of Alberta in a snowy condition to the shores of Zambezi Lake in Zimbabwe. Yes, I've been making people laugh, I think, all over the world.
Well,
professionally and personally.
Professionally and incidentally, you know, which is how, of course, we came across you. And I know millions of people must have had their day lightened up by that video. When I saw it, I just laughed for so long, and I can't believe we're sitting here talking to you now. This is so crazy to think.
I know. I've shown that the infamous Mushroom Dad video to so many people now, and they've shared it with so many people.
I think what you said last time we talked, you said it had like 12 million views or something.
That's 25 million.
25
million. And you know, that has been the biggest joy for me, is to read similar comments from viewers of wow, you made my day, or I was feeling so down and you just lifted my spirits, and you reminded me of my dad and how much I miss him, and it was like another chance to reconnect with my own dad in a memory way. And it's just been so gratifying. You know, for me, one of the ironies was, you know, I was a professional clown for 33 years, and I, you know, toured the world performing and making people laugh, and here I do this one just natural little giggle fest, and sort of impacted more people in a way than I had my 35 years of, you know, clowning and performing. So
it's always the ones we put the least amount of effort into that
and I end up being isn't that funny? And you're right, you know, I sort of worked so hard to make people laugh for so many years, and marketing, and schlepping myself around the world, and it's one little natural thing that my son,
accidental chocolate.
Yes, an accidental chocolate. That's right.
So what about your relationship, your experience with psilocybin, magic mushrooms overall? Surely that wasn't your first encounter.
No. In my 20s, you know, growing up on the West Coast, that's when I first stumbled upon mushrooms with another friend who we were taking it was a dance workshop together. It was like, for me, you know, a professional development workshop after graduating from theater school. And she said, I'm going out to the Fraser Valley where we're going to pick mushrooms. And I thought, oh, I love mushrooms, just omelets. And I didn't know she was talking about we're going to go eat some and then get really silly. And so we went out to the beautiful farmland east of Vancouver, the Fraser Valley. And in October, psilocybin is growing all in around these cow patties and farmers' fields. And so people would make the pilgrimage out to Fraser Valley and have a lovely day of walking around, and you'd spot psilocybin in fairy rings, they would call them, the way they grew in circular rings. And I started eating some. And so that was my first experience, and in my 20s. And then you just reminded me, I was on Hawaii camping with a friend, and this is many years ago up in Hilo. And at that time, you could camp and set up a tent in these meadows overlooking the sea. And we'd open up our little tent door, and there were mushrooms outside growing wild that she recognized in our tent door. And I remember eating a few of those and just lying back and watching the clouds, which looked like palm trees, kind of scud by on the, overhead. So that was when I was in my, I guess in my 30s. So that was another encounter. And really, yeah, and then a few random samplings over the years. And until I did this, accidental munching with Benny, I hadn't been back to mushrooms for, 20 years, like a long time.
Okay.
A long time.
Wow. So walk us through, if you could, because I've been wondering every time I've watched that video, which is a lot now, because it's so funny. It feels so good to laugh. Like, how did that happen? Did you, you just came across the chocolate bar? Like, how?
Yeah, it's a little embarrassing because I was foraging around in my son's fridge, in which there's usually nothing to eat. Being a classic sort of son, always expects his parents to come and fill his fridge and then cook for him and serve him. My son, the prince.
Shout out, Benny.
I think you're extra glad he wasn't on this recording with us today.
You're getting the real dirty deets.
Right, Prince Ben. I was see, both of our kids are living now in Los Angeles and California, and we live up in the west coast of Canada. And so when we are driving down to Loretto, to the Baja in the wintertime, we stop and visit with them. And now that we have a little grandson, our daughter has a baby boy, we stay with them and we do childcare, help out, and so we moved from his place to her place. So we were staying at Ben's, and I was hungry and was sort of wanted a little snack or something. I opened his fridge, and I thought they were artisanal chocolate bars, frankly, that he had on the side of his fridge. And being in California where everything is artisanal and costs a fortune, for one chocolate, it's like $10 or something. Somebody hand delivers you on a rattan glove or something. Anyways, so I said, "Oh, Benny's got a chocolate bar in here. Oh, it looks like a really good chocolate bar because it was covered in gold foil." So I thought, "Oh, this is really special. I'll just take one row." So I did that, and it was around 6 o'clock at night, actually, but just before dinner, right before dinner or something. Like, who knew when we were having dinner? And then about I didn't tell anybody. I thought, okay, I'll just have a little, tide me over till we make dinner together or whatever. And then about I guess 40 minutes later or 45 minutes later. And there was also some sauce in his fridge called bitchin sauce.
Oh, yes,
like
I'm familiar. Yeah.
Yes,
oh,
it's
yeah.
kind of like a hummus type of sauce.
Uh-huh.
And I also took some of that, in one carrot that I found in his fridge and kind of dipped it in and ate it. And then about 45 minutes later, I start to feel this tingling on my lips. I thought, damn, I've been poisoned. Or I think I've got food poisoning from this old sauce that's probably been in his fridge since he, been touring for the last month or something.
Yeah.
On his speaking tours. And so I just went to lie down. I thought, oh man, this feels like food poisoning. So I called out to Sally and Benny, from my bedroom. Sal, I think that sauce is off in Benny's fridge. And Benny heard me as well from the other room, and he said, Dad, did you have anything else in the fridge? I said, well, you had some chocolate. You had some chocolate bar in the fridge. He said, Dad, that's chocolate mushrooms in my fridge. I said, oh, that explains it. I'm just starting to trip here. And I also remember when I was just kind of calm myself before I knew what was happening. Mm-hmm. I started to see these geometric shapes, behind my eyelids, and these pink kind of, Aztecian kind of shapes sort of moving across my vision. I said, oh, okay, that explains what's happening. And so then I got up because I was really like tripping in a way I hadn't tripped in a while visually. And he said, he said, how much did you take? And I said, well, I had a row. He said, you're only supposed to have like 1 or 2 chocolates. Not a whole fucking row. I said, well, I was hungry. I didn't
artisanal chocolate.
It wasn't labeled.
It wasn't labeled.
It's a good thing it wasn't me. I would have eaten half the bar.
I know, classic. And actually, they were a little worried because I'm just such a lightweight when it comes to, smoking pot or psychedelics or anything. And so they phoned my daughter Emma just to tell her, and Emma was great. She said, Benny, you should just enjoy this. You've got this precious time now with Dad. You should just enjoy it and be with him. And you don't need to rush him off to a hospital or anything. And so once I knew and that the sauce was okay, it wasn't poison, I said, okay. And that's when I think, the laughing started, or I just felt this, sort of making fun of myself for my overexuberant appetite. And I just started to laugh. And then Sally was at the table, and Benny was at the end of this table, and I was at the other end. And he just sort of started to talk to me and interview me, kind of on like, well, how is it, or what's it like? And that's when I started saying, well, it's very funny. And started going to my favorite Scottish accent, Monty Python or something. Oh, stop me vittles. I can't stop laughing here. Oh, no. But I was, so that kind of went into that flow of, my reaction. And what was kind of a reassuring at that early point was that he said to me, Dad, you look so young right now in your laughing jag. And I think that a reminder just sort of, I think it reassured me just in a way that this is a really healthy release. what's going on right now, and there's nothing to worry about. And in spite of all the doubting that I have on, who I, who I am or what I'm doing, or not trusting, right, myself, my own inner strength or groundedness, I knew it was just gonna be a wonderful experience, and that surrounded by people that I love and care about, and it was great to be with my son. I don't get a chance to kind of hang out with him very much because he's so busy in his work, and we're physically separated so far. I've always wanted I love hanging out with my kids and laughing with them. They're both so funny. So this felt like a precious time that was happening, and I just thought, I can just let go and enjoy being a laughing fool right now. So that's what I'm gonna do.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it really is.
Did it ever get weird?
No, it didn't. The only I really wanted to have some of the Thai food that they ended up ordering and bringing in, but I couldn't eat anything. So that was the only frustrating part, was that my stomach and my solar plexus area was moving around a bit, was making itself known. So all I could really do was have tea. But I think, as you saw in the video, every time I went to have some tea, I was like, no, I can't really have any tea right now. I remember it sort of no.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do. My body was just, doing little somersaults a bit.
Wow,
inside.
what a treat to come out of a surprise mushroom trip and have a video.
Yeah. It'd be famous.
No, no kidding. Like, what a random act of it. Really, I just keep going back to that ultimate irony of, having worked so hard to reach people in my career performing, and all that it takes to mount a show and tour it, and to set things up so that I can make people laugh or entertain them. It's like, my last show that I performed was called Fiddling with the Stories of My Life. And it's a narrative of my life as a performing artist, and clowning and traveling with my wife, us, playing music together in the Greek islands over the years. And it's like, there's so much effort in doing that professionally and mounting a show, especially a solo show. It's so exhausting. And that here I was having this wonderful experience, and then he was recording it. I had of course no concept it would have the impact, but it's just, to me, so ironic that I've made 25 million people laugh, and my vision in my professional life was to unite the world in laughter, right? To give people, like Emma Kelly has this wonderful quote. He says, by laughing at me, the audience really realize they are laughing at themselves. And when they realize this, it gives them a sort of a spiritual second wind for going back into the battle of life, or re-engaging in life. And so the comments reflect that to me, and that, oh man, you really lifted my day, or you really gave me a vacation in some ways from aspects of my life that I'm struggling with, or sad about, or suffering in, or however. So I retired in many ways from clowning, even though I'm still doing, film acting or TV acting in Victoria, and still playing music with Sally. It's like Mexico has become our new Greece, just sort of informally playing music in little venues and entertaining people. But so I think, I'd been struggling with, what do I do now? What's my life now? Or how do I make a difference for people? I think becomes a continuing existential struggle that we all have. And I think, perhaps men more than women, perhaps not, but my sense was, well, what do I do now? Like, do I just go and have fun and enjoy life? Is that it? Or is there something else that's calling me? There's something else that's calling me forward, and I didn't know how to define it anyways, or in some ways I felt a lot of frustration about giving it voice. Like, I knew there was something else still that I wanted to share, whether it's professionally or personally, and it's still around lightening people up, or giving them still that, spiritual second wind. And I saw that I could still do it with music and animate people, playing Celtic music or blues or whatever. Like, that still lifted people's spirits. But I missed clowning. I missed that aspect of my performance. I wasn't doing it any longer. And so in some ways there's a lingering sadness about having left that part of my career, which I did for so long and enjoyed so much. Mm-hmm. And so having had this experience with Benny recording it and posting it, and at first I was nervous about him doing that. I was afraid, it's going to damage my career. I'll never get into the States again, and they'll stop me at the border. Aren't you that guy who was laughing? Come on, that was you, wasn't it? I'm sorry. We can't let you in. When I said, of course, post it. What? There's nothing to lose here. It's not like I. So that it's given me it's interesting. It's given me a sense of completion. This action has, I can rest again, or I can relax again about, I'm still making a difference, and even though, like, when you did that podcast about imposters, I was just reviewing one of your old podcasts about how we feel like we're all faking it, or really, what are we really doing? I think that whole thing about, that struggle about, do I make a difference? Is it important what I'm doing now in the world, now that I've retired my work, and all that dramatic suffering, that I end up getting into sometimes. This was a bit of a wake-up call that I realized I could give myself a break and let myself rest on, this is what I've done now in this phase of my life. And it's made a huge difference, and I can just relax more about, my impact on others.
I think we should.
You didn't even say anything yet. I've been talking all the time.
That was beautiful. That was beautiful. I mean,
yeah.
and that alone, just giving ourselves a break, is such a powerful message. We are so hard on ourselves from childhood all the way through. We have all these pressures and expectations of who we are supposed to be, and we will most likely never fully meet those expectations. So
absolutely. Like, I know, pinpointing after having done so much, personal exploration of when I felt like I wasn't enough, or I know I could never make my mom happy, really, after she lost my dad when I was so young. Because I took on, I've got to make her happy. I'm the baby, and it's my job. So it's like growing up, with that, knowing you'll never be powerful enough, or whatever enough to do that. So I agree. Like, we all carry those types of unrealistic, cruel, taskmaster expectations, and I've definitely learned how have identified it and know when it's happening, and can manage it and pull myself away from that reactive, debilitating headspace, and it's still there in a way, and creates suffering, but not as long. It doesn't have the grip on me that it used to have. And so And I'm more aware of smaller ways that I make a difference for people now in life. Like I'm more aware of now, it's enough to entertain and make my friends laugh, or in small groups, or it's on a daily basis. I'm much more present or much more conscious of when I lighten up somebody else's day, or I give them a break, or I make them laugh. Like I think I notice now much more of myself throughout my day when I make a difference for people, comically, and how valuable that is.
Yeah, I can imagine. There's a couple of things that I want to touch on, but go ahead. I think you got something you want to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking about what a beautiful example that is for your son, for Ben, and how, I mean, being able to see his dad just let go. I mean, just in the mushroom chocolate example, just being able to surrender to that moment and just let go and still be in the midst of family. Like so many people might have felt like, I'm just going to go in a room and close the door, and like, I don't want anybody to see me. Like, I'm just going to shut myself off because this is like a weird experience that I wasn't planning. But you stayed right there. You stayed with your family and like let go with them.
Well, that was the big sense that I got from the video overall, that your family loves each other so much. It was so obvious just in the authentic laughter. And like Courtney's saying, yeah, I mean, how many people do we know that if they accidentally ate a chocolate, they would have been mortified and hiding in a bedroom or not wanting to see their parents, and just what a beautiful relationship that exhibits.
That is wonderful. I think through Sally's, my wife's orientation, we've always strived to be able to be more authentic and vulnerable with each other since a young age. And I think I'm just kind of very moved by that was your sense.
Yeah, no, it was very clear. That was one of the main reasons that I wanted to talk with you, because, you know, family is so important to Courtney and I. I grew up in a very unhealthy family. There was a lot of unnecessary pressure and judgment. It was Catholic. You know, not that there's anything wrong with that, but the Catholic family, at least growing up where we do, a lot of guilt embedded in that. And Courtney's family has been very loving of each other, very open to us and our psychedelic ways. And it's been a major change for me that has actually required some significant adjustment in my level of comfort, because I was uncomfortable around such a loving family. And now I can almost like have spidey senses on, you know, when families love each other and where they don't, because are you still hearing me?
Still there. Yeah, okay. I'm still here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Our camera for some reason is giving a little trouble here. But anyway, yeah, the ability to sense a strong family unit is I'm starting to find that and see that in you also. Excuse me. But one of the things that I would love to just touch on that you brought up already is two things actually. First of all, you know, we've been so involved in the psychedelic world. We started the world's first psilocybin retreat in Jamaica years ago. I have been administering psilocybin for 20 plus years, have just very deeply immersed in this world. And the majority of, I feel like, the practitioners who are now coming into psychedelics, because they're more accepted publicly, it's seen for therapeutic value, is there is still this kind of perspective of you've got to do the hard work to heal. And what I saw in your video and what I just heard you say about clowning and helping people laugh at you so they can laugh at themselves that's the end game of the mushrooms for me, in my experience, is that, you know, you can sit through all the trauma and you can work through all the suffering, and there is value in that. There's a place for that, not to disregard it. But ultimately, like, we get a choice whether we're going to enjoy this life or we're going to suffer through this life. And it can be a difficult choice to make. It takes, you know, discipline and courage to be vulnerable, to laugh at ourselves and eventually laugh at, you know, this whole charade. But within the psychedelic community, there's this kind of an overtone of seriousness now. And I fucking love that you brought the humor back out into it, because I mean, you know, mushrooms are, that they can be, a hilarious ride. And I feel like we've forgotten that in many ways as psychedelics become more mainstream and they're being strictly applied as therapy. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. In fact, I'm familiar with, you know, some therapeutic practitioners here, you know, in Canada that are right now in a conference, like, you know, of psychedelics and their therapeutic value. And he's a doctor. And so, yeah, I'm aware of that, and the benefit of that whole movement that's using psychedelics to help people heal through trauma. And like, I think we're really in line in terms of the value of the irreverent clown, who is able to make fun of themselves. It's like laughter is the ultimate victory, as far as I'm concerned. Laughter is the ultimate response to all of that shit and failure and stuff that happens to you, and if you can laugh about it, it really is the ultimate. I'm not dead yet, you know, or you haven't gotten me yet, and you know, in my kind of theater background, it also reminds me of this wonderful play that I once studied or saw by Brendan Behan, an Irish playwright, called The Queer Fellow, like the queer fellow, and it was set in a prison, and at one point, the queer fellow is off to the gallows. It's like, you know, is on death row. And the scene is he's walking down the, you know, past all the other cells to go to his death. And they all start commenting on it like it's a horse race. And he's ahead by a minute, and there he goes, you know, ahead of the jailers, but they're all picking up. And they do this ongoing commentary in this darkest moment of his life. And they make it into this comic horse race, because really, what else is there to do? You have no control over what's happening to you in your life. As Viktor Frankl said, you know, who survived Auschwitz, all you have control of is your reaction. All you have control of is your reaction to the circumstances. And here they were, these other oppressed, imprisoned convicts who chose to celebrate the victory of humor in the darkest moment of one of their friends' lives. I just always, you know, stuck with me that memory of this play, and really that art saves lives, or that art can save lives, as my friend's bumper sticker said. And I think, yeah, I mean, I'm so grateful that I stumbled upon clowning. I didn't intend to be a clown. You know, I was a theater actor, and I took clowning as a, you know, professional development. Oh, that'll be fun. Actually, that is why I took it. I'm going to take that workshop. That sounds like fun. Yeah, and it was. And so improvisational, you know, making up on the moment, kibitzing with people, as the clown does, or to invite people to play. That's really what the clown does. Right? He invites people to play with him. And so I notice in my life, I'm always looking at, you know, who has a sense, do you have a sense of humor? Or is there a connection there? And Victor Borga, I remember, once said, laughter is the shortest distance between two people. I love that quote. Laughter is the shortest distance between two people. Like, that's the most intimate.
That's interesting.
If you can laugh with somebody else, and that's where the humanity, you recognize your own humanity and vulnerability and all this stuff that goes on, but you can still, aren't we ridiculous?
I feel like I need a professional clown in my life. I didn't know that I did, but the more that you talk about clowning, I just didn't even know that this was really a profession, which I feel ignorant about. But until seeing you and hearing you talk about your profession, I didn't know it was a thing, that clowning was, I think, which now it makes more sense that you would hire someone to come and help bring out the play and the fun and in a circumstance. But
yeah, and it's not a birthday clown, right?
No,
yeah.
It's a stage clown, or it's
right.
it's a clown you would go see perform in a theater or at a festival, in a tent show. It's really the old European origin of who clowns were as performers in the circuses. They were the center. They weren't just filling up space while rigging was going up behind them for the trapeze. They were characters who came forward to do a skit or a dramatic piece, like putting up a ladder to climb to the moon, to get closer to the moon. I mean, these very tender, pathos-filled comic vignettes of us in all our heroic ridiculously, failing magnificently. Failing magnificently. Like, that's, to me, this is the essence of of clowning, because you're up there and you fail.
Yes.
do it again. Then you do it again. And then, yeah.
This is an archetype that comes up in the group mushroom space, in the individual solo mushroom space, but in a group, running the retreats in Jamaica for so long, we saw all kinds of things, but this clown, like, it is so helpful for a group, for someone to embody that clown.
Well, and it's taken me, I can't even, the connection you just made for me in that quote, that laughter is the shortest distance between two people. So in my work, very frequently, I have had, mainly it's been people who have been trained or experienced in some kind of shamanic practice. My practice with mushrooms is very much a blend of this kind of shamanic therapeutic space, but many people have said that, Eric, you are the sacred clown. You know that, right? And I'm just, I never conscientiously took on that, but knowing that is very much a large part of the role I play. And what is really touching me so deeply right now, I just want to share it because I know that there are people who listen who have been a part of our ceremonies, and just because this is a valuable tool that I have found. When I first started facilitating groups of 15, 20 people, and these are big spread out groups, often in the dark, excuse me. And I started when I would have people, maybe 300 feet or however far away from me, that I wanted them to know that they were still safe. I developed this laugh that became a tool. And I would consciously use this laugh, and still do, to let people know, even though they're at a distance from me, that I'm right there with them and that everything's okay. And so that creating that immediate space between, that bridge between myself and the other, to provide a level of security and comfort and safety, just like that, just hit me like a ton of bricks. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. As you say that, I imagine you in that space, and that you're really creating a lightness that is, like you said, comforting, and letting people know that everything is okay. And even though we're on this, whatever, serious gathering together, there's a reassurance.
I mean, you can just like dig into so much deeper material when there is that lightness, right? I mean, you can explore past traumas and challenging events with so much more ease if that humor is kind of there as a support. At least that's been, it's been an evolving experience. It wasn't always this way. Eventually, I learned to be able to laugh at myself and then to hope to help other people do the same. And it sounds like you and I have very similar roles in ways. Yours is maybe a more formal, formal clowning, which is beautiful. I would love to hear you kind of talk about the evolution of your personal profession as a clown. Like, you started it because it was fun, but I'm sure at some point you started to see the value that it was bringing to people and you began to take it more seriously. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure.
Taking clowning more seriously.
Yes. Isn't that
the irony?
Right. This is serious. I think so. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Let's talk about the serious part.
It reminds me of that old Woody Allen joke about the woman who goes to see a doctor, a psychiatrist. She said, "Doctor, you got to help my husband. He thinks he's a chicken, and he's clucking, and he's sits on his chair all day, and I don't know what to do." And the doctor and the doctor says, "Ma'am, don't worry. I can cure him, but within a week." She says, "But we need the eggs." So I think that what I discovered, first of all, the freedom in kibitzing with people in that workshop, that intensive that I did for the training program, was just the freedom and basically coming out in front of people and being in the moment and responding to wherever they were at, and in a way that was comical, and it was so much fun and so thrilling, because I was scared. Like, everybody was scared who were in training. Like, you had to go out and you had to present a trick that you were going to do, and then the trick failed. And then you had to go on this journey on stage or whatever to make the trick work in some ways that your audience would accept. Okay, great. Yeah, you did it. And so it's perilous, right? Or it's scary, because you're serious. Really, you're failing. You're up there and you're failing, and you're like falling flat on your face. And then you're going on this journey to rescue yourself and make this failure into a success. No matter how ridiculous it is, your way of making your trick work. As long as you can do that, you do it. You're a success. And so my character that came out of that workshop was an aviator, and his body was his airplane. So I put on this old leather helmet in the class, and all of a sudden I was this, kind of Snoopy-like cavalier saluting, narcissistic pilot who was going to dazzle the audience with his flying skills and take them flying with him around the world. And they're just going to be so awed, they'll be silent with awe sometime when there was no reaction from the audience. Okay, I can see you're silent with awe. I would make fun of the fact that nothing was going on. They just loved me. And so I was always making fun of this grand illusion that I was, the best thing since sliced bread. And if they didn't get it, I'll just do it again. I'll just do my trick again, and so that they'll get it. And so that discovery was very attractive, because I was, such a narcissistic kid growing up, or young adult, because I was the baby and I was just the center of attention in my, one of four brothers, etc. And so here I could make fun of my grandness pomposity, and that felt very powerful, very powerful. And that spontaneity of being able to kibitz with people in the moment and make fun of myself right there in the moment was so freeing. And so I came out of that workshop thinking, I gotta do this. You know, when I'm not doing stage acting, I've got to perform this, my character. It's just so much fun. And hearing people laugh at that joke that you're sharing together, like, isn't he ridiculous? Yes, and he knows he's ridiculous, so that there's that level, meta level of understanding between the two of you. I know I'm being ridiculous, and I know nothing. I'm not doing anything impressive. So my trick ended up, I'm flying so fast right now, it looks like I'm standing still. And then I'd land on one wheel. That was the big trick, right? Well, all I do is I just lift up one leg. Ta-da! You know, and that was the trick. And it was, you know, it's just so gratifying to be able to do something so silly, but have the audience get how, look, we're all ridiculous, and we're all trying to pretend that we all know something. Yes. And I'm really going to impress you with how much I know. So it was just great to be able to you know, make fun of myself for this obsessive way I have of, you know, do you think I'm really handsome? You know, or how good looking am I really? What do you think? So like a clown can just, it's so wonderful because I can make fun of all the things in my life that I'm obsessed with. Looking good, right? Like we all have this thing about looking good. So much of what we do is about not looking bad and looking good. And so, you know, when I'm setting up today, I think, oh, how's the lighting in here? Oh, that's better. Yeah. Oh, maybe I'll just sort of move a bit. Oh, there we go. There. That's my best side right there. So, you know, being able to make fun of all that stuff is so great. And I recognize that and to improvise. Like I love just being spontaneous, you know, just quipping, you know, using my wit to just, I can't help it. It just sort of comes out. And I think that clowning gave me the freedom to do that. I mean, I love acting in plays and, you know, playing character roles, and that's really freeing too, because you get to delve into so many aspects of who you are or aren't as an actor. But clowning is so precious because it's so, when you're so present, when you're, it's a real state of grace, it seems to me. When you're that much in the moment and you're just up there on the stage being, and whatever the audience gives you, you accept. Whether they're laughing or whether they're not laughing or whether you just go with it. And in the going with it, it transforms. You transform the reaction into something positive. That's a very powerful state of being, I think. Very, very, very. I once saw Abner the Eccentric, who's a great clown from Georgia originally, do a martial arts presentation. And he was fighting with somebody, but he just went with their resistance. And he basically ended up leading them all around the room as they tried to push him away. And it's like, that's the essence of clowning. You go with whatever you get, and in the going with it, you end up transforming it. So it stops being a resistance to you, and it ends up being your assistant or your ally or something. You transform the negativity. So
this is amazing.
No, you could actually talk about trip sitting.
Yeah, I'm right now. All I'm thinking is, one, do you give workshops?
I know. I'm thinking the same thing. What's the matter?
If you don't yet, you need to. And also, can you give workshops for our Mushroom Church members?
Can you train trip sitters with me?
This is amazing.
No, I mean, everything that you're saying is exactly what I try to take into the trip space. You have no idea what's coming at you. You've got to do your best to turn it into something positive, and you're only going to accomplish that by going with the flow of what it is.
Yes. Yeah, it's a scary space to be in as the leader or as the guide, and yet what else is there to do except just be with people, just to be present with people, so that that result happens, or that flow happens. That's yeah. I remember that my ultimate goal really in clowning was just to get up on stage and not do anything, but just to react to the audience, and because my best bits I would discover by accident in the moment when I was on stage, like a scarf, like sort of, I had this long flying scarf, and one time the scarf just left my hand and got, pulled by one little kid who was holding my scarf. I thought, where'd my scarf go? And the audience are dying laughing because, they see me not knowing what the heck is going on here. And I'm thinking, where's my scarf? Oh, there it is. So I went and grabbed it again, and the same thing happened. I was like, I thought, oh my God, this is a great comic bit as I'm doing it, right? I discovered it by accident, and I went with it and ended up making it a very valuable aspect of the show. Like, what's going, everybody else knows what's going on except me.
Sounds like this is a theme for you, Stu.
It is.
25 million people have just found enormous humor in your accidental stumbling upon mushrooms.
Yes.
Bits are accidental.
I know, that's right.
Stop trying. Just stop trying right now.
Right. Stop trying.
There's some real pronoia going on here for you, Stu.
Yeah.
The universe is conspiring in your favor.
Yes,
sure.
that's right. Yes, like the world is out to do me good.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. Reverse paranoia or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what did your kids think growing up with a dad as a professional clown? Like, did they embrace it? Were they annoyed by it? Like, I want to know.
Yeah.
More about that.
I think at the early age, they loved it because I would, in a summary, I think at an early age, they loved it. When they got to that, junior high school age, they were a bit embarrassed, right? And I know they also felt very proud of me because, I took them with us traveling over, all over the world or whatever. We did a little Oregon tour in the van with my little sound system one year, and we traveled all over Oregon doing this, tour, and beautiful theaters and places. Or we went to Fiji, and I took them to resorts where I clowned, and so I think they were impressed with the resourcefulness of what I could generate. Or I paid for a week of skiing by doing clown shows on the mountain for all of them. And so they saw that, like this very affluent lifestyle that I could create in little small sections because of using my skill. And Sally and I did the same thing, when we played music. Like, we took them to Greece. When Benny was 1.5, we took him back to Greece, to one of the Greek islands, and he was in his little buggy, and we'd play music in the bar. He'd be asleep, and then he'd wake up just as we'd finish the gig, and he'd, start to play. And then we took them both back, both our kids, when they were 12 or 13 and 11, and they basically served in this open air, very comfortable patio on one of the little Greek islands, and we were playing music. So I think they got that living this alternative lifestyle had a lot of riches to it. And then, so I think that they were they were both very proud of me, or so that I was, living this unconventional lifestyle. And we lived in a very conventional neighborhood, like Pleasantville in Victoria, right? It's very leafy treed, character home suburbia. I always felt like a double agent in some way, when I was taking to school as this parent, because, I wasn't really a sports dad. I played violin when I was little, and so and I had to coach them.
Oh, wow.
I had to coach Benny in soccer, and he was in goalie, and I'm up on one of the dads on the sideline, and they said, okay, there has to be a shootout now because it's an even score. There's a shootout. And I remember falling to my knees and thinking, oh, no, a shootout. And I looked up at the coach, and I said, what's a shootout? Coach told this story when my son got the MVP award, right? If you do, well, I think that Ben succeeded in spite of his dad as this great soccer player. So there's a certain aspect of it that was a little bit of embarrassing, and recognizing that it was cool. It was cool that our dad was a clown, and that it enabled us to have this very free form and freed up a lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it certainly shows now. I mean, Ben is sharing you on his social media so frequently now. It's so cool to see that.
Yeah, and he gets there's people who are following him because of they're interested in what we're up to, and he's included us, which is great. And he recently did a personal growth workshop intensive, and he ended up writing us a letter to Sally and I, thanking us and acknowledging us for what we brought to him as parents, and how he's really, how they say, your kids can stand on your shoulders in their life to go forward. And it was so moving. He made me cry. In talking about the qualities that I have and the qualities that Sally have, that he embraces, in his work, in his sharing of his journey as this, golden boy, athlete and scholar who, had a fall, emotionally, and then recovered from that. And both of my kids have acknowledged that, like the qualities that have given them their resilience and resourcefulness and humor and an ability to really connect with people in a very deep level. I'm just so moved, by my kids on who they are in life and how their friends, respond to them as leaders. So did I answer the question?
Yeah,
I guess I did.
You did. Yeah, you definitely did. That's so wonderful. I mean, I'm just thinking, gosh, I mean, we have 4 kids all together, and 2 kids between Eric and I, and to imagine being at the stage in life, that you're in now, and having our kids speak of us and share our lives to people that are following them, their friends, their peers, and be proud of us. Like to envision that is like, oh, it almost brings me to tears thinking of that being a possibility for us and our kids.
That is what success looks like to me. Is my children being proud of me.
And we had to do I had to do a lot of letting go in those teenage years, and that was very challenging for me, because it put me up against my own relationship with authority and being powerful, and why aren't my kids listening to me, and all of those areas where I just felt like the baby again, like the baby, the teased youngest in the family, where I didn't feel any personal power. And it's so confronting being a parent in those years of knowing, how do I set boundaries and be effective? And so being vulnerable is really one of the best tools I found in responding to those challenges. And so I think that is a constant thread that our kids saw in both Sally and I, you know, now that I think of it, that I just tried to step away from that reactive, protective, frightened little boy Stu as a dad, and be, you know, more authentic of what was really going on, and trust that they would get it. And I think I rescued myself by playing with them. I played with them a lot physically when I was young. Like, you know, made up super, you know, I was like Octopus Man and the kids were Super Girl or Super Boy, and they fought, you know, tried to wrestle my arms away and fight, you know, like play games. And I think those were really, really, really important aspects of parenting. Being physical with your kids, physically affectionate, like that's a kind of home that I grew up with. A lot of physical affection and joking and playing. And I felt like that's where I showed up the best as a parent in our house. I may not know anything about sports coaching or other kind of aspects of it. I knew how to play. I knew how to do little animated puppets with my fingers. You know, drive them mad. Be driving to my Westphalia, and they'd be doing their, you know, groaning at, you know, teenage disapproval thing. And I had these little finger puppets, like a little giraffe and a little zebra, that were stuck in the vents of our van. And I would put one on and just sort of go back behind me. And they couldn't help but laugh. It's kind of to break that, you know, that tension or that judgmental thing that they're into.
Gosh.
So I think play is a very, very powerful tool.
It can get so easy to get caught up in the loop of life of, you know, stop that, don't do that, blah, blah, blah. You know, like the hard boundaries, and forget that, you know, ironically, like play can break that rigidness and set us all free. Like the other night, I was just so frustrated with our 1-year-old and our 5-year-old, and I just kept finding myself kind of reacting, like you were saying, and trying to be like the mom. And finally, I just threw my hands in the air and I just said, that's it. The only next thing I know to do is put on music. And if this doesn't work, we're all going to bed. And I put on music, and I mean, it was the most fun. That it went from the hardest evening all week to the most fun evening we've had all month. Like just dancing and swinging each other around.
Oh,
yeah, so I can totally relate.
That is so great. You know, because we just came from a month of grandparenting with our 1.5-year-old, my daughter's little boy. And I can so relate to that. It's like I just get so stuck in the frustration of, why aren't you doing what I say? I've already fed you 8 times today. And
yeah.
Okay, what's the matter with you? I just fed you, for God's sakes. And it's like,
yes.
Yeah. I just fed you. And that's something my wife would do. She'd say, put on some music. Let's dance around the table. And all of a sudden, everybody changes.
Yeah.
He also just wants to play. I mean, that's what my daughter and my son-in-law are such wonderful parents, because they're always, even when they're feeding him, they're playing. They play with him. You know, they're making him laugh at the, you know, there's this, missed the spoon. So it's up here. Or like those kinds of things are, they're real icebreakers and just save you. So
totally.
So between you and your wife, who it sounds like you're saying that your wife, remind me her name?
Sally.
Yeah, Sally. It occasionally or sometimes brings you back into play mode. But you seem so playful yourself. Is this something that you all keep in balance, or? You
just caught me on a good morning. I'm realizing I am mentioning her because she's such a great partner for me, because she sees me in my worst uptight state. Mm. And make no mistake, I do have them. And it's able to where's the Conrad, where's Conrad, where's my did Conrad leave the building or something, or she reminds me.
Is it the pilot? Is Conrad the pilot?
Yeah, okay. He's the pilot. Conrad Flash.
The aviator.
Yeah, yes. She is. She just is able to, from her perspective, see when I'm just in my tight, imprisoned, uptight space, and call it. Right, but in a way, I think in a very loving way. I think in a way that doesn't shame me, which I think is very important, because I think we all have a protective, thing around being shamed or being made wrong, which is one of my big things. Misidentifying feedback for being made wrong. So I think she has a really wonderful way of. As a therapist, for many years, and coach, and she has a very wonderful way, a soft way of alerting me that I'm in that state. So
I've got a lot to learn from Sally.
Oh my God! Well,
you're pretty good.
Yeah,
pretty good.
Well, has it always been that way with you two? I mean, I'm sure, has there been, what's the evolution of that been like? Has she gotten better and softer with age?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think she has gotten better. And she was like that from the beginning. Like the qualities that I was attracted to her. Here she comes. Back from the doctor. The quality that I was attracted to her most. So I'm talking about, do you pull me back from the brink of uptightness? And how do you do that?
Divine timing, Sally.
Hi, guys.
I think she did that from the beginning. Like she had that quality, because the quality that I was attracted to from the beginning was she seemed to me to be a powerful, attractive, and soft woman. Like she had all of those qualities, and vulnerable. And I was really attracted and moved by that. I fell in love with her, for those qualities.
Not that I wasn't firm, because I am.
Boy.
Yeah. I see you, Sally.
There we go.
It's a balance.
It is. It can be a tough balance.
That's what I'm working on.
I can just hear a little bit.
Yeah. So
he's an artist, right? So there's more of a bit more of a swing, and sometimes he goes off regularly into creative daydreaming land. And so I think his propensity for humor can be pulled back in easily, because that's kind of his practiced and natural state. And when you have a combination of healthy practices and an appreciation for a calmer or more joyful life, I think that's a good combo. But without the practice, we know that practice doesn't make perfect, but we know that practice can make more permanent or more accessible ways of managing, because life can be crazy and the body doesn't know the difference between real or imagined stress, and we need to have practiced ways of doing it. And I just read a thing about dancing, from a travel writer who said in these times of more travel and a desire to have more fun, just getting away and dancing is so great, like a really good party, no matter how old you are, because we've been missing that these last few years in particular. So we don't have to have a huge stressful life, but everything has an impact on how we feel mentally, spiritually, physically, right? So
absolutely.
We were just talking about that.
I have these on, by the way, because I want to look like a movie star, but I also had a little operation on my eye. So,
oh, I hope you're feeling better soon.
It was positive. So thank you. Yeah.
Nice.
The irony is we were just talking about the reaction to a 1-year-old baby, which they have, and how the frustration, and you ended up putting on music, and they had this great evening of dancing with their kids.
Oh, great.
Which is, that's so timely that.
Yeah, which was informed. I did that because Eric and I went out dancing a couple nights before that. And I feel like it took off like 1,000 pounds from our shoulders.
Wow.
And we danced for hours. And I thought, okay, dancing helped me a couple nights ago a lot. So maybe it's the way tonight with the kids. And it was.
I'm curious too.
And did you tell them, Stewie, that when the kids were driving us crazy, I'd go and put on the Bare Naked Ladies, who are Canadian. Yeah. And,
Sally would do the same thing.
This is me in grade 9, baby. This is me in grade 9. And everyone would get up and dance. And I said, okay, now sit down and eat your flipping dinner.
There's the firmness. Coming on in. That's great.
I'm much more of a space case than
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you, Stu, because you are an artist, and I'm an artist as well, in various mediums, and have found myself, in some pretty tumultuous emotional states over the years. I have struggled with some pretty severe depression, and also some very powerful periods of elation. And I'm curious with you, do you find yourself swinging back and forth between these emotional states, and if so, how have you, what kinds of practices have you developed to maintain more stability?
That's a great question.
And I'm going to let you go. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for joining.
Hope to see you later another time.
That's a great, very good question. I find I'm moody. I'm moody, but I'm more balanced than my earlier years as a performing artist. And one thing that really helped me, because inevitably, when you're at the center of all of this attention and admiration, and then it's not there anymore, there's this inevitable letdown, or this, why doesn't the world love me like this all the time? So you're disappointed. And so, that's a syndrome. That's a common syndrome, I think, for artists. Who how do they come down from a show, or what's the rest of your life is dull compared to what it's like to be on stage at, the focus of attention. And how do you pivot, or how do you transition, and all of that stuff. And meditation really helped me a lot when I started to meditate. And Sally was meditating before me, and then I joined her in that practice, and that just really helped me touch down to a very quiet, buoyant state of being. When I'd come out of meditation, there would be a lightness, like a happiness that I would feel, a calmness. And so when I found myself going to like a dark place after between performances or between work, I would make sure that I would meditate regularly to because it's interesting about what you believe around thinking and how that affects your mood. It's like the idea that it's supposed to be like this all the time. The world's supposed to love me this much all the time. And I'm depressed because it doesn't. And how dare they not love, angry. How dare the world not love me like this all the time and recognize how great I am and what's the matter? And so like all of those thoughts which create frustration and annoyance and unhappiness they're just thoughts. It's not necessarily the truth. And that's a big one for me that I discovered in my various therapeutic, journeys. It's like there's the world and the circumstances of your life, and there's your reaction. And you can step back from this reaction that you find yourself going into. You can just witness it or see, oh, there I go again. I'm going to that dark place where nothing makes any sense, and I hate my life, and I this and that, and they're just thoughts, and they're not necessarily the truth. So when I question that kind of thought process that's bumming me out, that gives me some freedom.
When you meditate, do you just sit in silence, or is there like a guided meditation you like?
We've just ended up, with doing like a TM meditation. It is a TM meditation, where it's a specific, mantra that I'm saying quietly in my head, and then eventually what happens is, I get to a very quiet. I get below all the mind thinking and assessing and evaluating and planning, and I get below that, and it's like get to a very quiet place where there's none of that chatter is going on, and that's the accessing to me to that the positive impact of that in your head and on your brain. And it's very restful and regenerative, and there's I'm finding a certain quiet buoyancy that comes as a result of that, and just gives me a quiet happiness that starts to sustain me, more and more. And so I do that kind of meditation for 20 minutes, and Sally and I do it together when we create it. It's more powerful doing it with somebody else, or with more than one person. And I just find it very calming. I also find, like, when in terms of an artist, that I'm anxious. Or maybe, it's being the youngest and being worried that we didn't have enough money because I lost my dad when we were young. And so money was a thing, right? An anxiety thing. And so I notice that I have a certain worrying status, Stu the worrier, and that worrying. And so that meditating really helps with all of that fearful thoughts in my head about worrying. And it's really been a very helpful way of calming myself, because I also see all the worrying as its illusion.
Yes.
Basically, my tenet now, or our tenet now, is all is well.
Are you an Abraham listener?
Pardon?
Are you an Abraham Hicks listener?
No.
Because this sounds like so much of what Abraham Hicks teaches.
Is it?
Anyway,
no,
sorry.
I got that from that kind of belief, wisdom from another, a therapeutic friend of mine, who was in a group of us. Who was actually one of the owners of one of our places here in Loretto that we bought with years ago. And he said, when he asked the leader of this workshop that he was taking, it was, you know, what's your basic, what's the bottom line here? Mm-hmm. He said, basically the bottom line is, for me, all is well. No matter what shit is going on, or basically all is well. Mm-hmm. And I think, yeah, all is well. Everything is okay. Or it's going to be okay. You know, everything will be fine. It is. I mean,
everything is perfect as it is.
It's perfect as it is, no matter how much I try to be more perfect or more popular or more funny or more rich or whatever. Basically, it's right now. It's just fine. This is great. Just breathe. Just keep breathing.
Just keep breathing.
Just keep breathing.
And now
everything is fine.
When you go stay at Ben's house and, you know, he's got his fridge stocked with the mushroom chocolate for you, I'm sure now you have that mantra.
Yeah, that's right.
After you eat a row
definitely one
or
to take
two.
Into the mushrooms. Everything is okay.
Everything is okay. And that was it, is I knew everything was okay after I ate the mushroom, even though they were worried that I ate too much. I knew, you know, I can take care of myself. I know how to take care of myself. I know how to. That's also, I think a very positive way of bringing yourself back to your trusting.
Yes.
Trusting your own, looking after yourself.
I love the phrase that you used earlier on about a spiritual second wind. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your perspective on spirituality.
Sure. Well, I grew up, in a traditional, it would be like a conservative, not an orthodox, Jewish upbringing, in that we went to synagogue and in a small town, and it was so what became most important were the celebrations, because it was always around eating really good food and festive dinners, and so it was and family gathering and cousins and everyone coming together. And so my religious upbringing was really centered around family celebrations and reunions and food and singing. Singing was also became important, and with our kids, we were culturally Jewish, I think, in that we introduced them to the major Hanukkah and Passover and the holidays. They had great stories about them, but we would clown them up as they were growing up and make them more our own, of telling those stories, at that holiday time, and adding music and making up poems or songs. And it was just a way of making it not so dull and liturgical. Mm-hmm. And then I stayed connected, I guess, to that sort of cultural faith by, I created a show about the story of Esther as one of my theater shows, with big giant puppets and playing all the characters, and almost like klezmer meets clown, telling the story of this gig I got doing this show. I realized I really ended up doing that show for my mother, after when she died. It was really an expression of being very proud of my cultural upbringing. But in terms of today and now, my spiritualism has moved more to a, I would say, almost like a Buddhist openness about acceptance and tolerance, rather than it needing to be a certain way of doing things. I don't really follow that. Oh, I have to do Passover every year now in order for me to continue to be worthwhile for my cultural upbringing or what's expected. And I've moved more towards this, more of a spiritualism rather than a religious dogma-based way of being in the world or belief system. I don't believe there's just one way, or that we're the best, or we're that idea, or that anyone is got the answer or the truth. And I think because we make it all up. We make it up.
Nobody knows what we're talking about.
There's no truth. Make up what works best for you, but don't hurt anybody. So that's kind of become more of my, philosophy. You don't have to dress in black in the middle of summer and wear long black stockings and a fur hat and be observant, or you don't have to dress like you're in the 1700s in Poland. So, really, it's not necessary. That's good. Like the irreverent clown keeps coming, services to me when I come upon dogma or something that feels too rigid. I just react against what I see as rigidity. And so I veer towards a spiritualism that is more open and accepting. However you want to connect, in the world. What was it that Rousseau? Was it Rousseau who said, nature is my church, or that idea. I'm more of a I connect to the divine when I'm outside on my bike, cycling, or being by the sea in Victoria, or on a kayak, or like, to me, I think as I grow older, my spiritualism is more connected to the fantastic wonderment of the world, of the natural world. Or also when I was clowning, that wonderful openness that kids have, their faces, just this pure, open, innocent, loving, like that moves me today more than sitting, in a congregation and chant or chanting or something. I don't know. I'm much more attentive, I think, to just what moves me in life, to be connected to love, divine love, or love. Like, love is all there is. So however it shows up, that's great. That's I'll have some of that.
Yeah, me too.
Sounds good to me.
2 for me.
Yeah. Oh, you got some love and a chocolate? Okay, sure.
Yeah, and chocolate. Yeah, love and dark chocolate. Okay.
Yes.
Aren't they synonymous? Don't they go together?
Maybe some mushrooms too in there.
Yeah.
No, that speaks so much to what we really try to communicate in our community as well, is that it's a personal connection and a personal understanding with whatever you call that thing that we can't describe, that we're all just doing our best to try to find some kind of words that help us express how we feel about this mystery, this inexpressible, inexplicably beautiful mystery at every level. So, oh man.
This has been such a wonderful conversation. You've shared quite a few wonderful philosophies and things that I hope our listeners will be inspired by. I'm confident they'll be.
Oh yeah. Well, even if they're not, I know that if we never communicate ever again, I know that this deeper understanding of the clown and the role that the clown plays, and my own kind of natural taking on of that role in this space, I understand it on a deeper level now, and can and will engage with it on a more conscious level in my daily life. And that's so much of what the mushroom experiences are about. It's not this experience had in a vacuum of time, somewhere, somehow. It's something that we can bring into our lives and make a part of every day. And that laughter is, oh God, it is the best medicine. It is the greatest therapy. And we can make the choice to find the lightness in every subject. I mean, even, I don't know, it's been so incredible. There have been instances where there's one instance comes to my mind right now where We were in Jamaica. There was a massive hurricane going through the Bahamas, and we were sitting on the beach going into a mushroom trip. And on the south of the island, I could see the storm front, and knew that it was just crushing the Bahamas at that moment. But where we were standing, the clouds, the light playing off of the clouds, the ocean moving underneath was so beautiful. And it hit me so profoundly that in every moment, in all through life, in the moment of death, and even we were arrested for mushrooms in 2015. Someone reported us. And at that time, I couldn't see the beauty in it, but I can look back now and see that there was so much beauty in that experience, even in the weird conversations and encounters that I had in jail with people that I would have never experienced otherwise. And so just to be able to take that impromptu, that playful perspective, that whatever's happening is like, this is food for my growth. This is food for my entertainment and joy. And that this perspective of pronoia that Courtney and I try to remind each other of, that life is always working out for me. It's all good, even when it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Before we wrap up,
we didn't warn you about this one.
We always ask all our guests on our podcast, what does psilocybin say to you? Psilocybin, obviously.
What psilocybin says to me? Well, I think it says to me, here's your best self. I think that's what it says. We're going to give you access to the celebrative, joyous best of you. Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's it.
Beautiful. And you can carry that message every day in your life and share that with others, you already have done so much.
Yeah.
I got a high regard for you, Stu. I think
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing your lightness into every day and to all the people you come across, and for raising your kids how you have been. I don't know much about your daughter, or anything about her, but seeing Ben and his bucket list book and hearing him talk and share his vulnerability in the short amount of time I've been following him on social media because of you, because someone shared that video with us of you, is really inspiring. And you just have clearly had a huge role in him being the way he is. So thank you for doing all
welcome. that. Just to quickly mention, my daughter works for a meditation online app company, which is perfect. And she never used to be anything to do with meditation until she started this work, and it's work. So she's a wonderful force.
Yeah.
Got involved with Sesame Street.
Nice. Really?
Meditation in Sesame Street. Yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome.
That's so cool. Yeah. We'd love to have her information. If you email that to us, love to see her.
God, this just to me, again, highlights just how important loving parents are. It's so crucial. And, we see so many broken homes. I come from one. I've had my own divorces and challenges there. And it really just kind of reemphasizes this conversation that Courtney and I continue to have about being our best selves so that we can be an inspiration to our children, and being continually loving to each other and playful with each other, and not taking things so seriously, and not getting, bent out of shape and getting off on our own thought tangents of, that we've made up in our head, and just relax and enjoy this ride. We don't know how long it's going to last. The people that we're with are beautiful and deserving of love and freedom and appreciation. And you fucking embody that, man. Your whole vibe, like, that's my world. I live in a world of energy, and seeing you on that video and the subsequent videos of you and your wife has it's been inspirational to me. So I know so many others. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for sharing that.
And the beauty of it is you're just being, like, just in being, you get to be inspirational. That's a fucking lesson as well.
Absolutely.
Anyway, I could go on, but I don't want to take too much of your time. You have been so generous already.
Okay, guys. Well,
thank
I look forward to seeing you in person.
That would be incredible.
Hey.
That would be incredible.
Yes,
that
please.
Would be incredible.
Let's keep in touch.
Yeah, we'll stay in touch. And if you're traveling, we're traveling. I'm sure we could make that happen.
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful.
All right.
Okay. Much love, Stu.